There are moments in life when everything changes, not because the world shifts, but because you decide to shift. For years I looked outward, blaming circumstances, people, and even fate for the way my life was unfolding. But in just 1 week, my entire perspective changed, not by magic, but by 5 habits that restructured how I lived, how I thought, and how I acted. These habits didn't just change my week, they became the blueprint for a new life. If you're stuck, overwhelmed, or simply lost in the noise of this world, then listen closely. What I'm about to share is not theory, it's tested truth. These 5 habits are simple, but their power is unmatched, because consistency in small things leads to greatness in all things. Let's begin. There comes a time in every individual's life when they must ask themselves a powerful question. Who is in charge of my life? Me or the chaos around me? I faced that question one morning, and instead of pressing snooze, I rose an hour earlier. Not for the obligations that awaited me, not for the endless emails or rushing to keep up with the world's noise, but for me. That single act, repeated daily, became the cornerstone of transformation. You see, an extra hour in the morning is not just a stretch of time, it's a realm of potential. Before the world begins to speak, before opinions start to weigh in, before demands clutter your clarity, that hour belongs to your inner architect. In that hour, I chose to build the person I wanted to become. I sat with a pen and poured thoughts onto paper, raw, unfiltered, honest. I asked myself what mattered, where I was headed, and why I even cared. For too long I had been a servant to my schedule, but in that sacred silence, I found freedom. I opened books that stirred my soul and stretched my thinking. A few pages at sunrise did more for my vision than hours of hustle later in the day. When you feed your mind before the world poisons it with fear, distractions, and urgency, you walk taller. You don't just move through the day, you lead it. That hour gave me a space to breathe, to dream, to connect with something deeper than deadlines. Even moments of silence were powerful. In those pauses, I heard ideas whisper that I hadn't heard in years. I remembered dreams I had buried under excuses. I saw who I could become, not someday, but starting now. What astonished me most was not just the calm I felt, but the way the rest of the day began to serve me. Instead of reacting to problems, I responded with clarity. Instead of being drained by others, I had already filled my own cup. Research may tell you early risers are more productive and less anxious, and I don't doubt the science. But I'm not sharing data, I'm sharing life. I wasn't just checking off more tasks, I was showing up more powerfully in them. I made decisions faster. I communicated with purpose. I stopped being controlled by time and started becoming the commander of it. When you give the first hour, to yourself you send a signal to the universe. I am worthy of this investment. That one act, that single decision to reclaim the morning, became a silent revolution. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it rewrote the script of my life. And if you're willing, if you're ready, it can rewrite yours too. Because in the stillness of that early hour, when the world is quiet, something profound happens. You finally remember who you were before the world told you who to be. There is a hidden power in reflection, an invisible current that, when channeled, shapes the direction of your thoughts and ultimately your life. Each evening, before sleep, most people allow the mind to wander unchecked through a landscape of worry, guilt, or dissatisfaction. They relive the stumbles, the missed opportunities, the failures that cling like shadows. And without knowing they drift into rest, feeding the subconscious a diet of defeat. But the mind, like a garden, will always grow what you plant, whether it be fear or faith, weakness or strength. I chose to break that cycle. I chose to plant seeds of victory, not by waiting for great triumphs to fall from the sky, but by noticing the quiet wins already within my reach. Every night I ask myself a simple question. What went right today? And I wrote down 3 answers. At first they felt small, even trivial. I didn't skip the gym. I drank more water. I stayed calm in a tense meeting. But something remarkable happened. The more I honored these wins, the more my spirit responded. The victories grew bolder, my focus sharpened, my confidence gained momentum. Because what you give attention to expands, the act of writing them down was more than documentation. It was declaration. It was me telling my mind, look at this. You're not failing, you're building. This simple ritual rewired the lens through which I saw my day. Instead of seeing all I lacked, I began to see all I had gained. Instead of fixating on shortcomings, I became attuned to progress. And what you focus on, you begin to multiply. There is profound science behind this. Practice, though I discovered its truth through experience long before reading the studies. Gratitude triggers the release of dopamine, a chemical that ignites motivation and pleasure. When you consistently direct your brain toward appreciation, it begins to crave more reasons to feel grateful. You begin searching for wins during the day, not just to record at night, but to live up to your own expectations. You raise your standard without even realizing it. This is no fluffy exercise in positive thinking. This is mental training, a daily discipline of choosing growth over guilt, purpose over panic. I have seen this shift transform how I speak, how I carry myself, how I plan, how I sleep. That's right, even my sleep improved, because I was no longer tucking in with a mind full of noise. I was closing the day with peace. In the grand pursuit of success, people often wait for the breakthrough, the big win, the life-changing moment. But what they don't realize is that success isn't one loud event. It's the echo of consistent, quiet victories. And when you end each day acknowledging those wins, you begin to live life not as a burden to survive, but as a gift to shape. You stop asking, did I do enough today? And start realizing, I'm becoming more than I was yesterday. And that is the beginning of everything. There is a force within you more powerful than any circumstance you face, and it lies dormant until you decide to awaken it. That force is your belief, your self-conviction, your identity, your vision of who you are becoming. Most people go through life reacting to who they've been, instead of speaking into existence who they intend to become. I changed the course of my life not through resources, not through connections, but through a simple, deliberate practice. I began to speak to my future self. Yes, I looked directly into the mirror and declared, with unwavering certainty, the qualities I desired as if they already existed in me. I am disciplined. I finish what I start. I speak with power and purpose. These were not empty affirmations. They were declarations of identity. In the beginning, my voice trembled. My eyes weren't sure whether to believe the words. But I stayed with it. Day after day, I spoke not to who I was, but to who I was becoming. And then something miraculous began to happen. Not outside, but within. I noticed my posture change. I started walking with presence, not apology. I began to make different choices, not because someone told me to, but because I no longer identified with weakness, hesitation, or distraction. You don't need more motivation. You need a new story about who you are. And the way you write that story is with the words you speak over your own life. Think of the athlete standing on the edge of competition. Long before the game begins, they close their eyes and see the win. They feel it. They taste it. That vision is not fantasy, it's programming. It directs their focus, their breath, their will. The business leader launching a new venture doesn't wait for certainty. They assume the outcome with clarity and persistence and move as though success were inevitable. This is not delusion. This is how destiny is activated. I was doing the same thing, not in a stadium or a boardroom, but in the quiet of my home, speaking life into a reflection that had too long been silent. And through repetition, those words stopped being wishes. They became truths. I no longer chased discipline. I acted from it. I no longer hoped for confidence. I embodied it. Why? Because I stopped letting my past write the script and started letting my vision take the pen. The mind is a loyal servant. It believes what it hears most often. If you tell it you're tired, you will be. If you tell it you're unworthy, you'll start shrinking from every opportunity. But if you tell it you are focused, resilient, powerful, then you begin to awaken that very energy. You start showing up for your life like someone who belongs at the top of the mountain, not someone afraid to climb it. You don't have to wait to become the person you dream of. Start speaking like them. Start walking like them. Start choosing like them. And soon enough, you'll realize you already are them. Most people wake up and immediately seek warmth. Warm beds, warm coffee, warm showers. They seek comfort without realizing that comfort is the silent assassin of growth. It dulls the edge of ambition. It lulls the spirit into passive existence. I discovered something revolutionary the moment I turned that shower handle to cold and stepped in with full intention, not to punish myself, but to prove something to myself. In that moment, before the world had a chance to define me, I defined myself as someone who does the hard thing, not because it's pleasant, but because it builds power. A cold shower may seem insignificant. It's just water after all. But it is more than a physical act. It is the first battle of the day. And that battle is not with the water. It is with the inner voice that says, "Not today. You're tired. You deserve ease." That voice has stolen more dreams than failure ever could. Every time I turned that dial and stood beneath the icy stream, I sent a message, not to the world, but to me. I am not here to live on my knees. I am here to rise. What you do in the first hour of your day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you shrink from discomfort in the beginning, your day will own you. But if you conquer yourself before breakfast, your day becomes yours to command. The cold shower is not a test of endurance. It is a practice in defiance. It is a daily reminder that I do not wait for motivation. I do not beg for energy. I create it. I earn it. I embody it. Science confirms what the soul already knows, that cold exposure releases endorphins, increases alertness, boosts circulation, and hardens resolve. But I didn't need a study to feel the truth in my own bones. I stepped out of that shower every morning sharper, stronger, alive. I no longer hesitated to make difficult calls, take bold steps, speak with certainty. The cold taught me that pain, if faced with purpose, becomes preparation. And once you train your mind to say yes to the uncomfortable, you begin to find freedom where others only feel fear. In a world where millions are addicted to ease, where people scroll through dreams instead of pursuing them, there is something wildly liberating about stepping into discomfort on purpose. It is a declaration. I am no longer ruled by resistance. I move toward it. That 5 minutes in the cold, those shivers, that gasp, that jolt to the system, became the spark that lit the fire of my day. It reminded me that I am not soft clay to be shaped by circumstance. I am the sculptor, and every moment of chosen hardship carves out more of the strength already hidden inside. You don't need hours. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a moment of courage, a decision to face the discomfort and emerge on the other side as something more. And when you choose to step into that cold, the world starts to notice. Here is a person who will not retreat, who does not need ease to rise, who has already won before the day has even begun. There is no enemy more cunning, more persuasive, and more persistent than fear. It wears many disguises: doubt, hesitation, perfectionism, procrastination. But at its core, it is a thief. It robs the soul of progress and the mind of peace. It disguises itself as logic, whispering clever reasons why today is not the day, why you're not ready, why someone else is better suited for the challenge. Fear rarely screams, it simply suggests. And the tragedy is, most people listen. But there comes a point in every life where listening to fear costs more than facing it. I reached that point not in a grand moment of triumph, but in the quiet frustration of knowing I was capable of more and still holding back. So I made a vow, not a loud declaration, but a private promise to myself. Every day, I will do one thing that I fear. One small act. One intentional step through the discomfort that had kept me confined. It began with the phone call I had been avoiding for weeks. I dialed with shaking hands. I spoke with a voice I barely recognized as my own. But when the conversation ended, a spark ignited inside me. Not because I performed perfectly, but because I had acted. That action rewrote the story. Then came the meeting. I raised my hand, shared my opinion, even though my heart pounded. And when I survived that moment, when I realized the sky didn't fall, I began to see fear for what it truly is, smoke without fire. I pressed publish on a piece of writing I didn't think was ready. I showed my work, my thoughts, my imperfections to the world. And still, the world kept spinning. No ridicule, no collapse, just silence and a strange sense of power rising from within. You see, fear is not an alarm to obey. It is a compass to follow. The very things I feared were signposts pointing to where I needed to grow. Each time I leaned into the fear, something stronger took its place: courage. I didn't need to feel fearless. I simply needed to stop waiting for fear to leave. It never does. But it shrinks when you walk toward it. Psychologists call it exposure therapy. I called it freedom, because freedom is not found in the absence of fear, but in the refusal to be ruled by it. Every act of bravery built a brick in the foundation of a stronger self. Every day I did the hard thing, I became more than I was the day before. And the beautiful irony is this: the more I faced what scared me, the less scary the world became. Doors began to open, not because fear disappeared, but because I learned to knock anyway. And when you commit to daily acts of courage, no matter how small, you begin to trust yourself in ways that make fear irrelevant. It no longer decides for you. You do. And in that decision, in that moment of choice repeated daily, life begins to unfold, not as a reaction, but as a masterpiece shaped by the steady hand of your own will. These 5 habits didn't cost a penny. But they made me rich, in clarity, in confidence, in control of my life. And the truth is, you don't need a lifetime to change your life. You need 1 week, 1 decision, 1 commitment to show up differently. You are not the victim of your habits. You are the architect of them. Start today. Start small. Start scared if you must, but start. Because 1 week from now, you could be standing on the edge of a life you never imagined was possible. And it begins with 5 simple habits.